Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Night Oasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Join me tonight, as always, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
I am here.
I know you've
Maybe.
been worried the past couple of days, but I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah. I was afraid I was going to go to Neverland.
Yes, for once, we're actually doing what we say in the intro, discussing the latest movies. Something that we just came up with. We mentioned last episode that we've missed quite a lot, and we just decided let's do a marathon show, but let's do something a little different. Let's do what we call it, the Mainstream or Bust Roulette, where we let the wheel decide what film is chosen. And at the end of last show, it chose Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which actually is about a year since it came out, because it came out around the same time as we were doing our Louisa marathon in January last year, because we were just busy. Yeah, and so it's just like, hey, here it comes back around. Now you can actually review me, even though it's a year later, but here we are. But yeah, at the end of each show, we will be spinning the wheel again with a bunch of other titles as well. We've took one out, added a new one, and we will see what the future awaits for us at the end of the show. So, Ian, I guess without further ado, let's get into Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, brought to us by the same Jagged Edge Studios, who brought us the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey films, and another one that is on the wheel, Bambi the Reckoning. So, see how that turns out. But Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, it starts sort of with an introduction with how Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey started out, with a storybook introduction. And we get, like, learn more about of Neverland and Peter Pan himself. Then it pulls away, and we are witnessing Peter telling this story to a child. And then we're introduced to Peter and his he has a job. He's sort of a carnival clown, and that's what he does to sort of get children. The makeup, he like pinpoints a child out of the crowd, and that's sort of his victim that he wants in this rendition of Peter Pan. And so he follows this child home, and his mother is like telling him stories, and basically the mother goes and does something in the bathroom, and the kid is sitting there in the empty room, and Peter comes up from the cellar door, and sort of this like harkens back to like it reminded me of Evil Dead first, because like he's coming up from the floorboards of the cellar, and then I was like, oh, then it also reminded me, like, wait a second, this is also It, the original It with Tim Curry, the 1990, the original Pennywise, and this is him luring a child into the sewer, but it's him luring a child into the cellar to take him away to Neverland. And so we have that, and we have, again, like, the mother finds it, pulls her son away, and goes after, Peter goes after the mother and the son through the house, and events ensue. And that's, again, then we have our title card, and then we're 15 years later. Then we're introduced to Wendy and her brother Michael, and I believe the other one is there, Josh or John. I think it's Josh. But he doesn't really have too much to do in the film. It's mainly Wendy and Michael. And it is Michael's birthday, and he's sort of a down kid, in a sense. for some reason in his mentality. And Wendy is sort of not focused on her brother or anything else really, just mainly she's focused on herself, and she sort of has this sort of, she's seeing this other guy that she sort of has her head around, but things aren't going well there. And so she's kind of forgetful, and she forgets that it's Michael's birthday, and she goes out, sings happy birthday to him, and like, hey, come on, let's do stuff. Let me drive you to school. And so she drives him to school. They just talk back and forth. And then they go to, she drops him off at school. She does her own thing. And throughout, it intersects with Peter, and we're also introduced to the Tinkerbell of this film, which I don't want to give away just yet. That will go into a little bit later into the film, into the review. But they set that up with Tinkerbell. And basically what Peter wants to do is, I'll just go ahead and say this. He's basically a serial killer, and he wants to save children by sending them to Neverland, because the world is an evil place, and they don't have really nothing to look forward to when they grow up, and he just wants to save them by killing them. It's like, it's the whole James Jones, like drink the Kool-Aid to get on the comet to the greater good, the next level. This is what he's basically, his mentality, sort of like what his fractured psyche is going through. And plus he sort of has like mother issues from when he was a child, and he's kind of taken those issues out onto other people. And so basically Wendy goes out, does her thing, because she works at a hair salon, and she comes back to pick up Michael. But at the same time, when school's let out, the guy that she's interested in, stops her from picking up Michael. So Michael just gets on his bike and rides off. And when he's riding off, you see Peter has a van, and it's called the Let's All Go to Neverland on the back of the van. And so he drives and starts following Michael down the road on the bicycle. And so Michael's pedaling, and then there's a wire stretched across the road, and he hits the wire with his bike, falls head first, and then Peter kidnaps him and holds him hostage in a bedroom in the house that he lives in. And so after that kind of puts fire underneath Wendy to go save her brother Michael. And then we're also learning more about Peter and his nefarious plans and what he wants to do, and everything else that sort of encapsulates this weird, demented world that Peter lives in, nightmare world that Peter lives in, and what he wants to do. Overall, for the story and for this particular film, I thought it was decent. It's a very moody, sort of grimy film once it gets started, once it gets going. Once you're into the deep end of like all the characters, the backstory of Peter, Tinkerbell, and just like everything that's sort of encapsulated in that house scenario of everything happening in Peter's house. The story is really kind of, again, it's dark for what it's trying to accomplish. It's not like super depressing. It's just like a lot of dark tones are used throughout to make it just this very, just sort of dirty, sort of feeling movie in a sense. I thought the actor who played Peter did a solid job. I liked his portrayal of Peter as this sort of psychotic, but like helpful person, even though he is sort of mean and sort of a little narcissistic, but it's for the greater good in a sense, where like he just wants the best for children, but it's like the worst thing possible for the children. And so like he has these, you know, bigger picture, but the means to do it is just not the best. But I like his attitude and just like his mentality and how like he's like breaking down, and he's disfigured, because he wasn't, again, I forgot to mention that like the mother cuts him on the face, and that causes him to get disfigured, as you see in the poster. And that's where he eventually finds the mask at a toy shop, uh, or just like a party shop or some kind of shop like that sells masks and balloons and stuff like that. And that's where he finds like the sort of childlike, sort of esque mask that he starts wearing to hide his disfigured face. But yeah, I like that aspect. I like, again, the darker tone to everything. There were some great like shots. I thought the cinematography was good.
Oh yeah.
I thought it had a lot of good moments. Like there's one part where Michael's like in the bed and he's facing the camera, and like you can barely see the background, but like you can see the door slowly open, and like Peter does like this mysterious cheerful voice, and like he comes in, and then like it slowly where his head pans down and he's in between like Michael's shoulder and head, so he's like in the gap of the neck in the background. I thought that was a good shot. Later on in the film, when he's chasing a certain character, um, he looks underneath the bed, and like his chin comes down first, and it's like very sort of like unsettling at parts, just like the way it was portrayed. There's also a scene in like blood, like the reflection of Peter in some blood. So I liked all the cinematography and all the shots. They really planned those out pretty well, hopefully. I thought the portrayal of Tinkerbell, which we'll get into a little bit later, I like that aspect. Again, it's like very adult themed tones for all the characters that are supposed to be like this child friendly fare. They just like really just like took it they took the Pixie Dust to heart, basically.
Oh yeah.
They just really shot up the Pixie Dust there. I will say it kind of got a little samey in parts, because another aspect which I mentioned earlier was the chasing Michael in the van, and the van especially, and like he's wearing this sort of clownish makeup or just makeup in general. It kind of reminded me of the Black Phone, a lot of beat for beat moments of the Black Phone, because you have the grabber going after a kid on a bicycle, kidnaps him, takes him hostage, and then it's up to the sister to save the brother. So it just kind of, again, a few little moments in there where it's just like, it's a little bit of Black Phone inspired. It's like, it's not the most, it's just about the same, again, it's just like how, kid getting kidnapped, like the boy behind the door. It had a similar vibe to that, where, people going out and kidnap kids and they bring them to the house and they're trying to escape. So it's very similar in tone to other films. But I thought the meat and potatoes of everything with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, and just the sort of the grimy, nasty nature of the film was really pulled it together to make it its own, even though it was very similar and samey. But I thought it did decently. But I didn't really have too many issues with the film. I mean, to a certain degree, it kind of just, it didn't really do much in the middle act there. Not saying I wasn't like entertained, but it just felt like, again, stuff I've seen before is like, oh, this is just going to happen. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. And just like, it felt like kind of predictable.
Yeah.
And it didn't, like, they could have done a little bit more with the story. And again, that happens towards the last act when Peter goes even crazier, chasing people through the house and cutting up people. So like, I appreciate the last act finally like pulling everything together, but just like sort of a little bit of that middle portion was just like hit the same beats that you've seen done before. But again, I didn't mind it. It wasn't, it was fine for what it was. I had a relatively okay, experience watching it. I didn't hate it. I didn't harp on it too much. I didn't really have too many issues. I liked everything that was like portrayed. But Ian, I'll let you go and give your thoughts, and we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people talk about this film, and like most of it was pretty positive. But like it was just, I just was not expecting the movie that, we got. And like I was so pleasantly surprised by that fact because of a lot of these movies that we've watch, they're not usually the best.
And plus, I don't mean to interrupt, but like the
You're fine.
serious nature of this one actually helped it, in my opinion. Whereas, like, you look at the other ones that we reviewed like years ago, like the Mary Had a Little Lamb and Three Blind Mice, were so serious. Especially Three Blind Mice, like that could have been campy and it would have been fine, but it's like so serious and just like that's hard to take in. Like this one, the tone works for the film that it's presenting.
Yeah. No, like that's, and I just kept, my heart was racing through half the movie because it was just like so much was happening, and I was just like, oh my fucking god, this is starting to stress me out a little bit because the atmosphere was so nice. Like it was freaky when it needed to be. It was intense when it needed to be. It was heartbreaking when it needed to be. And, it was, and Peter was so erratic going from like, and it was just so jarring sometimes. And it added to that. Like, he has his little boy phase, and then he's got this like nurturing, I'm going to take care of you demeanor, and then he switches to this like dark adult figure.
Yeah, schizoid.
And I was just like, my god. I was like, this guy is so freaking like this whole movie was so complex with its portrayal of the characters and gave them so much depth that, and I think that added to the atmosphere because you're like, which one is he? What is going on? I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would, and frankly, I'm just blown away by how much care that they put into it. Because I was kind of expecting something more along the lines of Blood and Honey, where it's like, it's okay. I love the craziness of Blood and Honey, but I kind of feel like this movie was a tad bit better in several different aspects. Like we didn't have a random fucking hot tub scene that made no sense to the movie other than, hey, this here's our sex appeal to get this movie to sell.
Mm-hmm. Because we got to have that hot tub scene, like Popeye's Revenge.
I mean, is this movie perfect? No, but like, it definitely uses its time a lot better than some of the other movies we've seen. Because like, I didn't feel like there was anybody no scenes were dragged on a lot longer than they needed to be. Everything was set up for the next scene, so it was literally just like, here's one thing, boom, here's the next thing, boom, and and it kind of kept a nice pace of where it needed to go without overstaying its welcome.
Yeah, and it unveiled more mysteries to the lore. Like especially when it came to the father that was missing a child, the first one that was taken, and then we get that little bit of a setup because we're already introduced to a little bit earlier, but then we get that setup, and then you realize, oh, that's the reasoning for Tinkerbell.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, that was done so well as well. Like I was like, that was really nicely done. And like there wasn't just throwaway characters. Everybody had a purpose, except for the that one family.
Yeah, well, that was Wendy's friends family. So, and plus like Joey, the Michael's friend, again, they're just like friend. It's a friend of the family friends. But yeah, they just kind of got the shit end of the stick.
Yeah, but I think just it was all done so nice. Like it really, you could tell that they put a lot of thought into this movie. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest, but I love that Peter Pan was just a psycho who made up Neverland as an escape and snapped and tried to take that. And
yeah, from the abuse of his own mother, and just like he wanted a place to get away from all the abuse, and so he created Neverland, and like that's the place like all kids should go because it's a magical world, and nothing bad can happen, and you'll be part of the Lost Boys, and you can be free and young forever.
Yeah.
But in his twisted mind, that's what he believes, whereas in reality, he's murdering small children.
Yeah, and it was just, oh man, and that's why I'm just like, I loved it so much, was because like, he really wanted friends. He believed in this world that he created, and it just like, and he just wanted to, that's where his friends were from, like so when he dies, he has a place to go. And I'm just like, and people to play with, but he was at the same time crazy and knew what he was doing. And it was just like this duality of caring psychopath and murderous psychopath that knows really what's actually happening to the people that he's taking. And it was just crazy.
Yeah, it's like that nurture versus nature, where like he wants to take care of these boys and the children, but like that animalistic just nature portion of his soul, just like taking over, where like I want what's best, and I just want to want what's best, and like he'll have no no other way. Now like how he plays games as the film progresses and just is all giddy and childish. Like Marco Polo was one of the games, and like that the whole setup and build up was pretty good. Where like Michael's going through saying Marco, and you hear Polo in the background, and Michael's trying to leave, and there's mannequins involved, and just like that again, I like how that there's good scenes portrayed. I like again a lot of the cinematography was pretty solid, and really enjoy that aspect of the film. So I guess we'll get into a little bit of a spoiler territory because we kind of skirted around it a little bit. We got to talk about Tinkerbell, because Tinkerbell is basically, again, spoilers, the very first kid that was kidnapped in Timmy, and that was, again, I don't know, it's been, I guess, 30 some or so years. I guess, I don't know. He looks, he's an old man, but basically Tinkerbell is a drug addicted, submissive crossdresser that loves Peter and that wants, it believes in Peter's grandeur of Neverland, but like Peter doesn't want Tinkerbell as a lost boy. He wants her because, as she puts it, she's a fairy.
Yeah.
Double entendre. So she, I'm calling her she because technically, because she shoots up pixie dust in her veins, and she's just, again, a drug addicted crossdresser. And I like, again, the backstory and the ultimate character arc of her, where like she just believes everything that Peter says and doesn't think that, again, that she thinks that her family doesn't care about her. And then Wendy comes in there and like, your father misses you very much, Timmy. And like that kind of takes her aback. And like, I never thought he wanted anything to do with me after I was gone. And like, so that kind of puts her sights in motion to kind of help Wendy and Michael to get away from the clutches of Peter. Doesn't end too well for her, to one of the, again, big elaborate showcase gore sequences in the film. Maybe that'll come into play. No, that part happens as well, so probably not. But it would be, maybe there's a possibility, because this is in a whole big universe of the Pooniverse, as they're calling it. So there is a little bit of a sequel bait involved as well in future installments. So maybe with what happened to her at the end of the film, her spirit might become a thing in the next one. Who knows? But I'd be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
What other? That's like the main. Of course, we got to talk about the other thing in the basement, and the reveal of that. But I don't really want to give too much away with that one. Just say that it involves the kid at the beginning of the movie being, being lured and chased by his mother. But there's a certain reveal with what his, again, it's been 15 years later since he's been kidnapped, but his role in the film, I don't want to really give that away, because that is kind of a big thing, and I don't think I want to spoil that. But it is a certain character related to the film, the story of Peter Pan. The pretty, again, I like all the nods too. Like there's the crocodiles on TV, and then there's the sort of the dragon outfit that's pinned to the wall. So you have a little bit of nod to the Lost Boys and the crocodiles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of determination and work that went into like get the little Easter eggs that you have to look around for.
Yeah.
But you got any other thoughts?
I mean, so, well, I had missed one. I think I'd missed some parts of that, and you had answered one of my questions that I had about the movie, but like about what happened to that one little boy, which for some reason my brain just did not put the two together because I was getting distracted by my damn cats. But anyway, about this movie, like, I kind of hope they do a sequel just because I want to see where this movie's going to go. And I haven't felt that way about one of these movies since pretty much since Blood and Honey, because I kind of wanted to see where that was going to go. And I'm just so impressed by, just like you said, the nods, the like how much detail they put into things, and really giving us good closures of what happens to, you know, all of these kids. And and it's just they did so much for this film, and I'm just so glad that they actually put in the time and care, because we see a lot of movies where they just squander their potential, and it's just nice to see a film actually care about its property the way this one felt. But that's pretty much all I got. Oh, I guess we lost Havoc.
My internet went out.
Okay. You said,
sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I saw that you said you lost me. I was like, I'm still here.
Yeah. No, I like what happened. It's like I looked and I had a yellow light instead of a green light, so my internet went out. So I'm sorry about that. But
You good?
Yeah, I don't know what you said because after that, but I don't want you to repeat yourself if you repeat.
I was just saying
said it.
How that I'm glad that this movie actually took care of its property, and didn't really squander its potential, unlike some of the other movies we've watched, especially some of the ones we're here recently. But
I also like the little Easter egg of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey on the t-shirt. So again,
I missed that.
They're making sure that Winnie the Pooh, the first one, is a movie in the second one's universe. So it's also in a movie in this universe. So that first one's a movie.
How it's going to work?
Yeah. But yeah, again, overall, I didn't mind it. For what it was way better. Again, like you said, Ian, it's way better than you anticipated it to be. It's nothing amazing, but for what it is, I mean, it's not a bad watch. I mean, you expect the worst, like you go into something like Mouse of Horrors or something like that. We're like, what is this? What is this mess? But like this one didn't really do that, where I was like, all right, this all makes sense to the, it's integral to the story. It's just, that darker edge to it, and not, all the adult theming and subject matter works for it. And I thought it was, again, I had a pleasant time watching it. Again, it was, like I mentioned, it's just very been there, done that in a few instances, and just a lot of references to other horror films. It's done the exact same thing, but nothing, it did it enough to make it its own. You're just gonna, if you watch enough movies, you're gonna spot the references, like, oh, that's from this and that's from that. You're gonna know where they're gonna pull from. The blood and gore was not too much, but there is some good set pieces, especially towards the end. A lot of the stabbings are pretty good. Again, I like the imagery and the some of the setups to scenes and the cinematography. I liked Peter. I liked his portrayal. I didn't mind Tink. Tink was all right. Interesting to see where that goes, if they do anything like I mentioned before. But yeah, they do kind of leave it open at the end of the film. I mean, that's not really much to give away, spoiler heavy, but because we got the whole universe coming. But I dug it for what it was, and it's better than I anticipated. So it's worth a shot. I mean, it's definitely better than some of the Mickey Mouse ones and some of the Popeye ones, especially like what was the other Popeye the Slayer? Man, it's better than that. And like they tried to do the same thing with like the backstory of like Popeye losing his family and stuff, and it just kind of didn't really make sense. To you're kind of left with more questions than answers. Like this one, I think it tightens up everything, and you kind of see where everything's going and how it leads to one another and how it all converges into one. So they did a good job in making this a good. There's a few qualms here and there, but nothing too bad. But it does a good job with its property and making it this dark fairy tale with a much darker tone to it with the subject matter. Ian, final thoughts?
I'm good. I think we said everything that needed to be said.
All right. With that being said, that is going to do it for our review of Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, but hey, it kicked off the marathon, and what better way to do it than that one? Because it did have some notoriety, and it's kind of fallen off, but we're happy to review it and get it out there again. Without further ado, Ian, it's time to figure out what we're going to be reviewing next time. So let's bring up the wheel.
All right.
As mentioned, we have a lot of mainstream and a lot of other public domain titles up there. We took Peter Pan off and added another title. And so without further ado, Ian, let's find out what we will be reviewing next week.
All right.
Oh, Jesus. Well, apparently we're staying within the Pooniverse. And that is we just like, wouldn't it be weird if that was the next one? And like, yeah, there it is. So we're doing Bambi the Reckoning. So we're staying in. That's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. See how, because we were talking about that before we went off air, like, because we were talking about the dark tone of like how it's so serious at Peter Pan. Like, I wonder what Bambi's going to be like if we ever get that one. And well, we're going to find out. So next week, Bambi the Reckoning.
Yay. All right. I guess that'll do it.
That'll do it. So, Ian, as always, it's been great talking with you. And we're kicking this marathon off with another public domain title. But here we are. As always, take care of yourself. Get that.
You too.
Get the feeling better. Hopefully the weather doesn't get any worse. It's just we're just at a standstill now with all the snow around us. But hopefully nothing major comes into effect again. Another major snowstorm. We appreciate everyone for listening. So thank you again for allowing us into your homes, and we will see you next time as we continue on the Mainstream or Bust Roulette Marathon here on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night, everyone.